Inside Sports Talk with your host, Joanna Roselli. I am joined by my co-host, Edward Cole, alongside sports journalist Eileen Carrasco, former professional baseball player, podcast host of Two Tall Sports podcast, Brett Lauren, and former two-sport professional athlete, radio personality, and host of VZ Sports Talk, Ed Smith. Today we come together and review what has been the MLB postseason and what we foresee as we head into the World Series. And how has it been a great postseason? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Hasn't been a pretty season. It was 60 games, regular season. And now we're into a MLB bubble for the postseason. So what has been your take out of this special baseball season? It's different than any other season, and it's just not only sports across baseball, and it just also being able to cover it. You know, we each of us covered in one way or another, and how that has been different. I want to get your take, Eileen.
To even be able to, I wouldn't even have imagined myself actually saying we're in postseason. I was one of the first ones that said, we're not going to get through this season, especially after that whole Marlins team, got infected. I was like, there's no way there's going to be October baseball, and especially if they don't want to do a bubble. So actually for me, I'm surprised. Good job, MLB. We are here. There's actually going to be a World Series, and there's actually going to be fans, which that's something that we thought wasn't going to happen this 2020. Unlike any other season that has happened, injuries, some guys dropping out, not all the players actually were able to participate in this 2020. But I feel like it was fun. It was a fast pace. It was like it was a sprint. According to how long baseball seasons are, and it's crazy, and we're here, and I'm excited. And like I said, I didn't think we would be in this situation right now, but I'm glad it's in a bubble now and it's more controlled. And I gotta say, I hate that the Astros are here again in this race, but it's the best for them, because if they win, that's the best thing that can happen for them, actually, because they're gonna be like, see, even though we cheated, we're still here. But no, we'll talk about my predictions later on. But I'm actually surprised that we're here. That, like we were saying, World Series starts in a couple days. And I'm glad and I'm surprised.
I was just looking at the standings just of the teams that actually made the playoffs. And the only, of course, team that I didn't think was deserving was the Astros. They were under 500, even in the 60 games, and they still got to the playoffs, of course. And so, I could go off on a tangent about them just on my thoughts on what they did. And I really don't like how the media has started to push them up a little bit. See, they're still good. I don't like that. I think it's way too soon to start praising the Astros. I don't love that side of things. But if you look at the teams that made it to the playoffs, it's pretty much who you'd expect. I mean, yeah, the Yankees were good, but the Rays, they have a lot of talent. Clearly, I mean, they're pushing the Astros at least, or they're pushing them to 7. But the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Braves, those teams are all worthy of being there. So I don't think there's any surprise on who made it to the playoffs, honestly. I mean, maybe the Marlins, who are kind of an upstart, all those moves they made, now they're starting to work with all the players they got in those big trades. But everybody else is kind of who I thought would be there at the end. So it's been good so far. They were able to get enough games in, like Eileen said, and somehow they figured it out. Now they're using the bubble style for these final games. But no, it's been good. It's been good to have baseball back, and the shortened season makes it more competitive, and there's a sense of urgency there. So I think it's been a good season for what we're working with.
It's great that we have baseball. It was such an arduous task to get a 60-game season together. Of course, we weren't going to get 162, but for Major League Baseball to get 60 games together and everything that went with it, with the Marlins outbreak, with the St. Louis Cardinals having their issues with COVID, and them having to make up so many games, having so many double headers to actually make a credible amount of games to actually be relevant and actually be in this season. It was an incredible task for all these teams to get through it. But now we are down to the Final Four, and we'll know who makes the World Series and who will start, who will play in the 2 games representing the American League and the National League in Arlington on Tuesday night for the World Series. But it's been a great postseason so far. Like Brett said, with the Tampa Bay Rays coming on, the series they had against the New York Yankees was phenomenal. That Game 5 was incredible, and they moved on. Now they're taking on the Houston Astros, Eileen's most hated team, But it's the Astros. It's what they do. They get to the playoffs 29-31, Brett. Like you said, sub 500. They were 7 games behind Oakland. But with the expanded roster, the playoff roster, that gave Houston a chance to get in. And now they showed everybody that, it's us against the world. And they like that mentality. So they fight back from 3-0 down against Tampa. Now it's 3-3 and winner take all tonight or Saturday night. So that should be a great game 7. And now the Dodgers are trying to fight back against Atlanta when we thought Atlanta had it when they were up 3-1. And then the Dodgers just continually turn this thing on. And now that might go 7 games. So it's been so much drama, but it's been great baseball. It hasn't been the most ideal amount of baseball. The ALCS has no fans, but the NLCS has a limited amount of fans. And we know the World Series will have fans, thank goodness. But for them to have baseball, considering what we're going through with this pandemic, is an incredible feat that Major League Baseball has pulled off. And I'm excited to see who's going to make the World Series. And I'd love for that to go 7. I know, Eileen, you'd rather see Tampa make it over Houston. But if Houston makes it, good for them. On a season that they didn't cheat, maybe this shows that they turned the corner, or maybe not.
I'd echo everything everyone just said. As far as what you mentioned, Eileen, I can't stand the Astros either. Hate them. I hate their cheating ways. Brett, for me, you and I have both been through those long minor league seasons, 142 games in our instances. Yeah. But I think this 60-game sprint, if it doesn't show MLB that there is value in saving some of the games off of those long 162-game seasons, I don't know what's ever going to prove it to them. I was actually more intrigued because of the less amount of games. And like I said, 162 is always, for the last bunch of years for me has been way too many games, too many teams so far out of the playoffs, even by the time you get to the All-Star game. So, this doesn't show them that there is some value in maybe trimming some off. I don't know what will. I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised to see that baseball was able to get past the initial trouble with no bubble and then make it to the bubble situation as far as the playoffs with the designated site. So it's, and I'm not a regular season guy. It was kind of hard for me, even with the 60 game schedule, to keep up with too much of it. But once we got to the playoffs, it has been unbelievably compelling to watch. And, I'm rooting against the Astros every pitch, every night, and we'll see if they can pull it off. But, I'm along the same lines as you too, Brett. People forget the fact that they had a losing record in the regular season. It wasn't like they had this amazing season and got into the play. They had a losing record, just got hot at the right time. And now they're, basically walking around giving everybody the finger through the playoffs. But I'm hoping that ends tonight. And if it doesn't end tonight, I'm hoping whoever's in the National League can win it, because how much would it be just, oh man, if they were to pull this off and win the whole thing, it'd be sickening to me. So hopefully that's not in our future.
And I like what you said, Ed, there, Ed Smith, with the shortened season, how much of a sprint it was for this season. I wonder what MLB is going to do, being that, okay, they were able to pull this off, have less games, still get to a postseason. They had more teams in the postseason. They had a total of 16 teams. And how this is also a potential change in the future of how MLB can possibly construct the postseason as well. Extended playoffs, having more teams, or anything, of what we've seen that's been different from any other seasons. So, because I think they were able yes, it wasn't the best as we were going in and all the challenges that were faced upon starting the season and thinking we're not going to have a baseball season, or maybe it's going to get canceled completely. We didn't know. And for them to actually be able to pull this off, and being that we are going to see a World Series, but what, could be of benefit from learning and as a learning experience going into the future.
Mm-hmm. And that is something very interesting, Joe, because MLB has been trying to get the excitement back in baseball, which I don't get it, because I love baseball. I can sit there hours and hours, go into extra innings, and I'll still be there. But for some people, they say it's a slow, boring sport. And right now it was a sprint. So before MLB makes any changes, I think they have to look at how many games were watched, the media engagement that this short season caused, and also how the players feel. Like, that was just a sprint that these guys did, and how do their bodies feel, and it's going to be a short off season for them as well. So we'll see how that is. But it is definitely really interesting to see how the media reacted, the public reacted, the fans did to this short season rather than the long one. Like, was there more excitement? Was there less people watching?
And I had a quick question, if you don't mind, basically to throw out to everybody. What did you all think about the designated hitter in both leagues, eliminating pitchers hitting?
I love it.
It's probably better, more offense. Yeah, I think, nobody wants to really watch the pitchers hit except for the guys that can hit, So, and yeah, most of the time they're going to either strike out or they're going to bunt. So I think, yeah, it's more offense is always good. Mm-hmm. I want to jump real quick. We'll come back to that. I wanted to go back. I think the pandemic is the best thing for the Astros. They got no punishment. They're not like they're suspending dudes for throwing at them, and they didn't get suspended. Like, the league has protected the Astros, and the pandemic just kind of slowed everything down for them because they had a lot of hate come into the season. So everything has gone their way, unbelievably, after all the cheating stuff.
So, Brett, does the hatred carry over, especially if they win this World Series? Does the hatred carry over to next season, and all these teams and all these fans that were waiting to get at the Houston Astros, now they'll actually have a chance to get back at them and just express themselves? Or, heaven forbid, there's some headhunting and there's some brawls going on because these teams, they may forget, but they won't forget. They'll never forget.
Right. Assuming we get back to somewhat normalcy with the fans coming back, I think there'll still be a lot of hate because none of the fans really got that. Oh, I'm going to go to the game when the Astros are in town and shit, and talk a lot of what to them, So maybe if they win, it'll soften some of that because it'll prove like, oh, they were legit or whatever. But I still think, like I was saying earlier, it's way too soon to start praising them, I think. But anyway, yes, back to your question, Ed Smith, about the DH. Yes, I think it's fine. I don't think it really ruins the game. I'm more old school, though, probably like you. Like, I miss the strategy of the game a little bit. Like, there's no more stealing bases or hitting runs or, sacrificing a guy over, like manufacturing runs like they used to. It's all strikeouts and homers now. So I don't want to lose too much of that, but I think the DH is fine.
Yeah, I think that made it more exciting. And then also, in essence, it also protects the pitchers from injury too, being out at the plate. It can be as easy as the swing of the bat and something going wrong, getting hit by a ball, or something of that nature. And then now they're injured and now they can't go on with the game and pitch, and now they're out because of a at bat when that could have possibly been prevented. So having that DH I think this also helps, and also saves some of that energy as well for the pitcher.
And especially considering these starting pitchers don't really go more than 5 or 6 innings anymore now. So if you can keep them from having those at bats and it keeps them that much more fresh, that's an advantage for you and your pitchers.
Yeah, like everybody likes it except for the pitchers that can hit. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Pitchers who can rake, that's it.
That's right.
Let me hit.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the good stuff, the excitement postseason. So we've had some surprises, or at least for me, there were a couple of surprises. I want to get your surprises out of the teams that made it to the postseason, and then so far who's in, or as far as they were able to make it. Like, for me, we're the worst team in baseball, in the Miami Marlins. They had like a 12% chance of making it to the postseason alone. And they were able to make it up to the second round and go against the Braves. Phenomenal for the Marlins. Another one was the Padres as well. We know, no secret, they're not also they're one of the worst teams in baseball as well, but they were able to push through, come out with power. So those were my 2 surprises of teams seeing going into the postseason and making it as far as they did. What about you guys?
For me, I think the fact that they opened the number of teams that made it in, it didn't necessarily dilute it. Obviously, I think it was a little more excitement. Biggest surprise for me, and I think Brett will, back me on this one, was the Yankees. Once again, with all that hitting, we thought they were just going to power through the playoffs. And that old adage, I'll take good pitching any day over good or great hitting. As the playoffs, you get into these series, and all it takes is for a couple pitches to get hot, shut you guys down, get enough runs. And, for all the Yankees, all the money they spend on your John Carloses and your